Hello and welcome to another movie review from MBE. Today we're going to be talking about A Hard Day's Night, John, from 1964. This film was directed by Richard Lester and it starred John, Paul, George and Ringo.
It did indeed, Stephen. This is of course the very first movie that the great Beatles starred in.
Yeah.
Not starred in, but made. Obviously it was their first sort of foray into the world of musicals. Of course these guys, well, I know John did anyway, I'm not sure about the rest, grew up sort of hero worshipping Elvis, and of course he was a sort of pioneering figure, that guy that seemed to step over from, well, Sinatra did it as well, but not so much musicals because the guy couldn't really sing. But obviously he just spoke. I mean, that's what he did, with a little bit of singing.
Yeah,
he's a crooner. Elvis was the first sort of rock and roll guy who transcended music into film. These guys looking up wanted to be him to an extent. Of course, when they came onto the scene and Beatlemania was at its fullest flow, they decided they wanted to go and make a movie. And Stephen, you mentioned it, Dick Lester, getting a guy of that calibre in. He also says that he studied them prior to this movie.
Yeah.
All of their mannerisms, their tics, the humour. So right away you've got a guy of that standing on board to do this movie, and he's invested in these guys. And you see that, Stephen, in this movie, right from the very get-go. This guy understands what Beatlemania is all about. There's little kids chasing him all over the place.
Yeah.
To the soundtrack of A Hard Day's Night, of course, the title or song from the album. Wonderful. If you're a Beatles fan and you start watching it and it kicks right in, it's just magic watching this. The black and white as well. There's something about black and white movies, when they are handled correctly, they are fantastic. The likes of Lighthouse and Les Innocents, and I think there was another one, the Houtman, the captain,
Young Frankenstein.
I like a black and white movie. Of course, I'm not sure if it was so much deliberate aesthetic choice,
and that it was budget, John.
Yeah, it was probably budget back then. They had to make it in black and white. But Stephen, what was your thoughts on that intro? That in disguise, there's Harrison's falling over and nearly breaking his hand, and Lennon's laughing his head off.
You're absolutely right, John. You know, Richard Lester was obviously given a template to use. He was asked to try and capture Beatlemania. Unfortunately, you know, there's no recorded film like, you know, behind the scenes and stuff like that we got from that period, other than some studio shots that I don't even know if they had audio attached to them or not. You know, so it's given the audience and Beatles fans like ourselves, you know, an idea of what it would have been like. Obviously it's a bit more exaggerated in this film. It's got to be, you know, keep it interesting. You know, I can imagine there have been long periods of doing nothing, hanging about in hotels rooms. We don't want to see that, unless it's obviously some humour in there.
Then we do see bits of it in this movie, but you're right.
Yeah, there's plenty of humour in there. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, this is a film I like to get back to. You know, it was made before I was born. I think 12 years before I was born. So, you know, my mum went to see us when she was a little girl with my grandfather. And the queues were right round the block to see it. You know, it was just so much the sort of attraction of these four guys from Liverpool. You know, and as you said, you know, the height of Beatlemania, so they were going to get bums in the seats regardless. You know, but bringing Richard Lester in, yes, John. You know, funnily enough, my introduction to Richard Lester was actually Superman 2, where he injected some humour into that. Such a contrast from the first film.
Yeah, you need
but
that.
I think I think he did a good job to capture all the sort of little mannerisms and tics and stuff like that. You know, you got the sort of dry wit of John Lennon. You know, you got the sort of chirpy humour of Paul McCartney. You know, the sort of
sarcasticness of a Harrison.
Yeah, and then the sort of
deadpan. Yeah,
deadpan and surrealism of Ringo. You know, but. You know, it's a great little film, John. That sounds patronising. It's an absolutely excellent film, actually. But it's, you know, you're taking four guys that have never acted in their lives, you know. And it was actually John Lennon that did say, you know, talking about Elvis, you know, when he came on screen, everyone screamed, you know, and he said, hey, that looks like a good job, you know. So you actually got to act this out in real life. But
and eclipsed it.
It's a great film, it really is, you know, and to get the soundtrack in there as well. I think most of the songs, if not them all, I can't remember, are in there, you know, and the way they sort of play in the background to some of the sequences is just, it's perfect.
It's slick as hell, Stephen, the way he introduces the music into this. I'm sure we'll get into that in a brief moment, because it does come very early on with, obviously, I think it's I Should Have Known Better, when they're playing cards in the train.
Yeah.
But of course they're scrambling around this train station. They finally get onto the train, they're going off to somewhere, I can't recall which town it is, but they're going to play a show, and practice before it. That's the general gist of this story. It's a very simple plot. Just these guys turning up at a venue, also rehearsing and then doing the show.
Yeah.
But there's tangents and craziness going on, and he highlights Beatlemania and all the zany sort of caricaturized, if that's even the word, characters within this movie. Obviously they go onto the train and we do get to meet one of the primary characters who's not a Beatle in this movie, which is Paul's grandfather. But not that grandfather, not the one that stays with him. He's entitled to two, and that's his other one.
Yeah.
He's very clean, grandfather Stephen. You also are aware of the movie this guy starred in.
It was the television series and the movie, Steptoe's son, John.
Yeah.
Wilfred Bramall. A fine comedic actor, you know, if you've ever watched the series or watched the film. This guy's just got a knack for...
he's a dirty man.
Yeah,
or something.
he's a dirty old man. That was the sort of phrase, you know. But he's just got an honest humour about him in that series, and he's got it here again. Although he's portrayed as very clean.
Yeah, he's very clean, but he's a very conniving, mixing old shit. I don't think he's that old in this movie. I actually don't. It's because it's black and white. He looks, I think, older than he actually is. He actually outlived John Lennon. And he had some specks of grey, so I don't think he was old. Like octogenarian, ancient old.
No.
But he was really good in this first sort of scene he's introduced in. He's quiet, almost mute-like. I think Lennon manages to bring out a word in him. He's like, "Oh, you do talk?" Well, yeah, of course he talks. He's human. And then Ringo goes in with a terrible joke at this point. But if he's one of your family, Paul, then maybe who knows?
It really is bad.
It's one of the worst lines in the entire movie. But look, I ain't doing down on Ringo, as we'll get into later on. He's probably the star performer alongside George in this movie. Stephen, also we do get, the dialogue as well in that scene, and that's something that transcends the whole movie. The dialogue is
excellent,
fantastic. It's so well written, this movie. It's just something about it. It pops. They do feel real. A little bit, as you says, it's maybe a little far-fetched. It's not something you'd imagine coming out of John, George, Paul or Ringo's mouth.
Caricatures of themselves,
But also we do get the I should have known better scene. They go to the back of the train, they're bored. There's a scene with that guy as well, that pompous shithead, and Lennon slaps him down.
Well, this was the days, obviously, first and second class, you know, on the trains, etc. I remember that when I was small. You know, that they did have first class carriages and second class carriages, etc. But there's that class sort of system in place, you know, and the Beatles are rebelling against it, you know. But you're right, that song, I Should Have Known Better, it's a perfect track to be on a train. If you listen to the rhythm of that song, it goes along with the sort of pacing of the train as well. For me anyway, you know, it's something that I did pick out.
Put me in mind of that Travelling Wilburys actual video as
End
well.
Of the line,
End of the line, where they're all sitting round, I think, on a train. Similar vibes, they're all sitting. It's almost like poetry from Harrison. He knew what he was doing there. We also have Lennon at some point acting out an absolutely fantabulous scene where he's in this carriage full of young schoolgirls or whatever, and I think the grandfather says they're prisoners or something, stay away from them. They're under arrest. He goes in and I think he says, I can't recall exactly what it is, I'm trying to find, we're broken out, blessed freedom of all, the blessed freedom of it all. It's look, the lines this guy has to say, the fact he utters them with such eloquence, and he's never acted in his life, I think that speaks volumes. Have you got a nail file? These handcuffs are killing me. I was framed, I'm innocent, I don't want to go. I bet you can't guess what I was in for. The little things like that, it's just Lennon bringing that humour. The guy's naturally funny. But as you did say, Stephen, that first sort of introduction, out with the intro of music into this, so natural the way they actually float in. It's just these guys sitting around playing a card game, but then it blends into the music and then it comes back to the card game. It's just beautifully integrated. I've seen a lot of musicals over the last few years, none like this. They seem to have developed over the decades, as you'd imagine every genre would in film. But this seems old school, like a sort of Elvis one, but it's done really well, as I did say.
Well, I did read as well, John, that this film was shot in sequence, which was, I don't know if it was a common thing back in the early 60s, but certainly nowadays it's something that you don't hear of because of locations. You know, you got to shoot scenes basically where you are and who's available, you know, and then piece it all together. Apparently this was all done in sequence. Interesting as well, this is where George Harrison obviously met his future wife Patty. I can't remember her name, John, but you know, they would get married.
Patty Clapton.
Can't go there, Patty Harrison. You know, but I think he would obviously marry her within a few years anyway. You know, so That's a little bit of trivia in there, but this film, it could have easily went down the road of just playing the greatest hits out, and being very lazy about it. But you mentioned something there, John, about the dialogue in this, and putting that dialogue up against 4 amateur actors at this point in their careers, showed the confidence of these young lads at this time, because they were only young. I think 1964, Ringo and John Lennon were 24, so
22 and 21.
Exactly, they're very young guys, but it's just it's something that you kind of take for granted because you're just watching it as a film and you know how famous they are. You don't get more famous than the Beatles, but at this stage in their career, they'd never acted in their life. They might have done some pantomime stuff on television specials, etc., but nothing at this calibre,
No, Stephen, I think the world was their oyster at this point. They felt invincible, that they could tackle anything. And certainly for a first movie, I think this is right up there. I really enjoyed it, Stephen. I've seen it maybe twice. I seen it about 5, 6, 7 years ago, and I watched it again, obviously today, in preparation for doing this review. And I really enjoyed it the first time, and I enjoyed it even more, arguably, this time. And it's a lot of it is down to how likeable these guys are. They're not really portraying anything completely different. They've not lumbered them with playing different characters they have to get. And obviously we see that with Lennon, I think, How I Won the War. Yeah. He often does a sort of satirical, mental character. Round about 67, I want to say 66,
How I
67.
Won the War, yeah.
How I Won the War.
Dick Lester.
Dick Lester again. So you've seen that he did develop into perhaps dabbling with other characters, but they're only really playing, as you did say, caricature versions of themselves, so they've not lumbered them with anything too hard. But I really did that. That's something I've says in the actual guideline and in my notes. The surprisingly decent acting of the 4 Beatles, and just the way they make this dialogue pop, and it's really also it's well written. I think you says it's a Welsh chap that did the script.
Alan Owens, yeah.
Alan Owen,
yeah.
So also they've taken that little Welsh guy, I think Mackie referred him to as, whatever you want to say, and have made it pop just with their natural charisma. But Stephen, obviously we do get more music injected in. It is a musical, perhaps accompanying the album, helping sell this great music. If they even had to do it at this point, I think they could have put out anything and it would have sold at this point. But it's I should have known better. Yeah. No, sorry, not I should have known better. We've already done that. I'm getting way ahead of myself. I'm losing the plot here. No, we'll go to the hotel room now, Stephen. We'll not talk about the music yet. I'm way out of sync here. We've already spoke about I should have known better. The hotel room, again, we get some injection of humour into this movie. This is probably one of the funnier bits in the movie. The grandfather and Macca are going back and forth. They're absolutely knocking the living shit out of Ringo in terms of his nose. I think Ringo comes into the room and asks, do I snore? And I think he says, if a nose like that, or a hooter like that, it'd be unnatural if you didn't. Or a trombone hooter like yours, it'd be unnatural. The grandfather then says, come on now, Polly, don't be knocking the afflicted. And then he goes on to absolutely destroy him by saying, I know you are, when he says he's joking, but it's his nose. He can't have he can't help having a great big hideous hooter. The poor little head trembling under the weight of it. Again, just brilliantly acted by this veteran actor. And again, we're injecting humour in, and that's something I really enjoyed about this movie, the way they balance some. It's a little dramatic moment from Ringo. So we've got drama, we've got humour, we've got music, and we've got surrealism with some of the things happening in this. He balances it really well. What was your thoughts on that sort of hotel scene as a whole? Because obviously Leicester is highlighting the mundanity of life on the road as well with the Beatles. You've got just plates of food and cigarettes, and there's just lying about bored doing nothing.
But the thing I picked out from this was obviously Ringo Starr can poke fun of himself. He's allowed that sort of the slagging of his appearance from Paul and his grandfather. But I think so. You've got to the way the film opens up is at quite a high pace. With chasing the Fab Four through the train station. Even on the train as well. It was quite frantic. With obviously the schoolgirls. Pattie Boyd, by the way.
Pattie Boyd, yes.
So this was a sort of just a quieter moment in the film. It was probably the quietest moment in the film actually. Just them hanging about, and you're right. But I think it's just to show the sort of it's not all glitz and glamour. There is moments where they are just hanging about. Dressing rooms and hotel rooms. And the hotel room toilets just to catch a break from it all, as one of them did say. I think it might have been George that said that, you know, it was the only time you can get away from it all was just to get into the toilet by yourself, you know. But you don't want to depress the audience, you know. It's meant to be a comedy, so they don't really linger on it too much. There's enough there to let you know this is what life is really like, you know, as one of the Fab Four.
And then we get to see the other side of life as a Fab Four, Stephen, when they go out to party. And then we get the implementation of music. It wasn't I Should Have Known Better. It was I Want to Be Your Man. I think we had All My Lovin'. And then there was that other Harrison one. Since You've Been Gone. I can't recall the name. It doesn't matter.
Don't Bother Me.
Don't Bother Me. Yeah. So you get a great implementation of music within this party sequence. Some absolutely god-awful dancing as well from Ringo. I don't know what it is he's doing. It's some weird 60s dance with the arms who's doing all of this. I think McCartney's kind of a kidding on, he's punching him at one point.
Yep.
But it's a really cool scene, Stephen, just seeing what life was like back then, just the parties, the fashion.
I don't think they were acting either.
No, I don't think they were. Stephen, I says that to you. I think they were just getting pushed out of their nuts.
Half cut at least.
Yeah, half cut at least. Maybe on something else, maybe the wacky backy, depending on the era. Don't think they were doing that yet. They hadn't met
Bob yet.
They hadn't met Dylan yet.
Maybe.
Well, no, I don't think so.
No.
So it was probably just drink and speed. And they were dancing. They were just having a great time.
Downers,
Yes, they loved their uppers, did the Beatles. What did you make of that combined sequence of Ringo dancing his little head off with his big hooter, and obviously George dancing even worse?
He's terrible. He's like the Tin Man dancing. Yeah. He's just, I don't mean the robot dance, I just think he can't move.
Yeah. And then obviously the grandfather at the casino.
You can see why George wasn't the rhythm guitarist.
Absolutely.
He's got no rhythm. But I think, you know, I always think of that sort of sequence, and it's just Ringo's dancing that sort of stands out to me. And his jewellery as well. He seems to flash his jewellery quite a bit, especially around his fingers. But I think it was, you know, I think he actually captured Paul McCartney kind of half cut as well, because he kind of does this little sort of stare at the camera for a little bit, which is sort of, it's not in his character to do unless he is half cut. But I mean, it's a contrast from obviously the hotel room scene. You know, it's showing they do have fun as well.
And also the grandfather thought he'd won the golden ticket.
Yeah.
He sneaked off to the hotel or the casino thinking that he'd get the better end of a stick, and he'd left them to sit around the hotel essentially. They go off and have a great time getting rattled and dancing, and he's stuck with all these posh, dim-witted shits. And of course he's masquerading as this sort of super rich billionaire from Ireland when he's not. And again, you see he's a bit of a shyster, a bit of a mixer. I liked that sequence, Stephen, I did. And again, it's just the way Lester implements music. It's just a really well handled and crafted musical.
How many did they squeeze in? About 3?
Yeah, 3 into this scene at least, yeah.
It's probably the best way to do it. If they're going to try and cover most of the tracks from that period, then it's a good idea to do it, rather than having to do sequences like I Should Have Known Better throughout the film, which would probably double the length of the duration of the film if they did that. I think
it did too. Of that, I think there was one at the end in the actual live performance. Of course it's not live at all. But Stephen, humour in this movie as well, this is the next point I've made. There's a whole lot of humour in this movie. And aside to the actual music, we've got Lennon in a bath with bubble baths, and he's kidding on he's a German officer. Then he's singing Rule Britannia. He's playing with a submarine or something, or a ship. Disappears into the bath. It's like Ant-Man 30-40 years ago. And obviously the road manager, or the roadie's looking for him, can't find him. He's like, where is he? You've got Harrison in the bathroom shaving on a mirror. Must have been incredibly hard to do that.
That was really good.
The way that the camera was shot up.
Yeah, the angle of it, yeah.
And then in and around this, we've got other doses of humour as well. I'm trying to find out which one it is. Just the slapstick humour in this movie, I've said in general. The press conference, they all get whisked off to a press conference again. Lester's mixing the mundanity of life as a Beatle, having to go to these press conferences and answer these stupid, mundane questions again and again. How did you find the US? Turn left or right at Greenland, or whatever Lennon says. But again, he's balancing the humour.
What do you call that haircut? Arthur,
yes. How do you like your girlfriends to dress? It's like, what is going on here, man? There was another one as well. I plugged it in and she just blew right up. I never noted his nose for 6 months. So again, dialogue's there, it's popping. Great humour, sort of highlighting these distinctive comedic styles of these 4 guys, and it's just really handled well and implemented into this sort of middle sequence of the movie. Obviously, after this though, Stephen, we do have I don't know what I'm actually saying here. I'm going down to further expand on the way the story blends hilarity. Just the tangents he takes. You'll see like the little grandfather under the stage while they're preparing for the Beatles, and it's a sort of classical act, and he's coming up onto the stage. they blend lots of tangents, and I've said I like the way that it's sort of a day in the life, fly on the wall documentary meeting an actual musical. It's not an out and out drama or musical. It can't compartmentalise this into one sort of genre. There's different things getting done. It's almost like a documentary. Did you agree with that? Is that something you got from this movie as well?
Yeah, John, and it's something that kind of came into my head as well. You know, throughout the years that I've always enjoyed a good sort of pop rock documentary. You know, whether it's a spoof like Spinal Tap or the Ruttles, or whether or not it's, you know, something more like the Anthology or something like that. But this period in obviously the Beatles' career is something that it wasn't captured on film enough, as far as I'm concerned. You know, I'd have loved to have saw more of studio stuff, you know, with video cameras in there, capturing a lot of it. You know, it'd be absolute gold now if someone had that kind of footage. You know, obviously we can look forward to the Let It Be film later on this year.
Cannot wait to see that,
if it's released. You know, this year, who knows? But
Hook by Crook, it will be released, Stephen. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, well, I think worst case scenario it'll be on Disney Plus. So
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, it's just great to see, you know, the Beatles at this stage in their career, and I know that it's obviously exaggerated versions of them. You know, this part of the film as well was probably where they kind of go their separate ways a little bit. You know, they're not all clumped together.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that was probably a good decision by Richard Lester to do that. You know, saying, you know, as you said, Wilfred Bramall, you know, under the stage, you know,
signing the autographs.
Yeah, making money off his grandson. You know, you've got George at the Taylors, you've got Ringo down at the canal. You know, and it all kind of plays out where they all go their separate ways.
And Lennon's trying to fire into everything in two legs.
Unusual for him.
Yeah. The one that was the only guy that was married at this point. And look, I bet they had just stories, just the length. I don't know, anything really. A lot of toy stories and whatnot. Steve, I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole again there. I was very close.
No, don't, please.
Yes, please don't. Obviously, we do have more music introduced. We've got, when the actual performances start, the rehearsals for this show that we get at the end of this movie, we get the likes of If I Fell, a great performance in this movie.
It's a fantastic song.
And then Can't Buy Me Love and I Love Her. There's just a whole lot of, again, music implemented in different ways. I think with Can't Buy Me Love, they disappear out of the studio or this theatre, and they're running around. I actually think one of them's missing at some point.
Yeah, that's a double. I think it's Lennon. I'm pretty sure. You're right, John. One of them is missing. I think it's John Lennon that couldn't appear that day. I'm pretty sure it's either him or Harrison. I can't remember. But there's a lot of sort of wide shots and overhead shots, so you don't notice that.
Very well shot.
That's the rumour anyway. I don't know if it's true or not. But it's a good video, you know, and I think they've just been told to run around that sort of playing field, just do whatever you want, and that's what they did.
I think again it's just, look, we're out, we're free. I think it's Ringo says we're free.
Video.
Yeah, it's like a Ruttles video, but I think again it's just showing you these guys are bored, senseless. They've got a chance of freedom, no one's around, let's just go about and run around and enjoy a brief little moment.
There's a bit where they do a kind of race, isn't there? You know, and Lennon's doing a rabbit, you know, it's just funny. It really is. It is silly.
And we actually see the sort of dourness of Ringo at some point as well, perceived dourness. I think he had this perceived stigma of being a little bit moany, grumpy. When the guy touches his drums, he says, leave them drums alone. Oh, sure, I could have a little touch. You so much as breathe heavy on them. And he says something else. Aren't you being rather arbitrary? There you go, hiding behind smokescreen of bourgeois cliches. I don't go messing about with your earphones, do I? Again, great humour. And then it's, again, obviously Lester spending time with these guys prior to the shoot. He will have picked up on little parts of their personality. And at this point, I think Ringo does. He goes off down to the canal at some point.
Yeah.
He gets mixed up with the grandfather. I think he has to look after him. And he mixes them and tells them, look, these other guys don't respect you. They don't respect what you bring. I mean, if it wasn't for you beating the drum, where would they be? And obviously he goes off with his photograph. It's actually a photograph, his camera. What am I even saying? That's his song, Photograph. All I have is a photograph. But obviously this is just an excuse. I think he was he was drunk. He was hungover. That is the word I'm looking for.
In real life,
In real life, on this specific day. And rather than waste a day's shoot with Ringo, he decided to fit this into the movie.
Yeah.
And we get some of the best drama acting in the whole movie
funny,
here
John,
from
he got
Ringo.
a lot of plaudits for this, as I recall from Ringo talking about this on the Anthology.
Yeah.
When really he wasn't acting, he was actually feeling really hungover, so it kind of played well. But it shows a sort of flexibility of Richard Lester as well. You know, to take a a situation, and he could have sent Ringo home that day, you know, and lost a day's sort of shooting with him. But instead, they said, no, let's use this to our advantage. You know, and it's one of the great scenes, you know, and as you said, John, it's an instrumental version of This Boy, which is one of my favourite Beatles songs, actually. But it's a nice version as well, you know, and it kind of matches the sort of sombre tone, or tones of the moment. You know, Ringo's very depressed, feeling sorry for himself. He's wanting to take a selfie.
Oh, what?
It's one of the very first selfies, I would say. You know, down at the canal, and before he actually hits the sort of snap button, the camera falls back the other way and falls into the water.
Yeah, it's just not a good day for him.
Yeah.
See, I'm not surprised he was feeling down and a little bit sorry for himself. He takes an absolute pounding in this movie. He steals a coat, and then he tries to go and chat up a girl at this point, and she tells him to get away, shorty. So he's getting tanked with everybody, really. The old grandfather's saying he's got a horrendous hooter. He's getting called shorty left, right and centre. That he's overcompensating. Trombone nose, he's overcompensating by playing the drums and whatnot. He takes a pounding, so I'm not surprised he's absolutely down in his boots at this point in the movie. But it's a really well shot part of the movie. Stephen, the cinematography, I think we can get into that here briefly. Really enjoyed the cinematography in this movie, and again, that's really encapsulated in this part of the movie. Really well shot sort of part where it's wide shots of him stumbling along, kicking a, I think it's a tyre wheel towards him
as well, like a can or something. He tries to kick and he misses it. Yeah.
But it's Gilbert Taylor, Stephen, that did the director of photography, and also he worked in Star Wars, the original Star Wars, Flash Gordon, The Woman, a whole lot of amazing movies from back in the day. So again, that calibre of crewmen they've actually been able to attract, I think that just shows you where the Beatles were, their name, their brand at this point. They could bring in people like this, probably British-centric people as well, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Sort of the gold standard British crewmen at that point. They could get the best of the best, the cream of the crop. But Steve, not get much more to add to the cinematography. It was very well shot. There was lots of sweeping shots.
And for a black and white film, it was very bright as well. You know, I don't know what it was. I think most of the shots were during the day. I think that's the most obvious thing. But you're right. You know, and the canal scene kind of stands out for me when we're talking about cinematography. As you said, you know, it's captured the sort of wide sort of scope. You know, and it's just the thing that stands out in my mind when you think about the cinematography of this film.
Yes, and obviously at this point as well, Stephen, there's a whole lot of shenanigans going on. The sort of show manager, the coordinator for the show, is pulling the hair out of his head. He's requesting bottles of milk with tranquilizers. I see what's happening now. It's a pot. It's all a big pot. Victor Spinetti, he's losing the pot. He just can't really get a grasp on what these guys are doing. They're driving him mental, especially Lennon. He's just absolutely out his nut in this movie. He's going all over the place. He's having interactions with some women who can't really see well. He's just saying, you look just like him. Oh, do I? I've not told anybody about what's going on between us. Oh, it's out there, everyone knows. And then she puts her glasses back up. You don't look anything like him at all.
He seems offended, doesn't he?
Yeah, he turns around, it pans onto him again, cinematography. And then he says, she looks more like him than I do. So again, great humour. There's lots of things, you know. I know we've got the old grandfather, he's been nicked by the police. So's Ringo. The show's about to happen. I think it's a half an hour away, and one of the members of the band is gone. So it's all in disarray. They're running around. He's gone. Our friend is gone. What did you make about this point, Stephen? Where Ringo's sulking, he's speaking to young boys.
John, this is the dramatic part of the film. You know, everything's fell apart. Are they going to get it together before the big performance? You know, of course they are. You know, don't worry about it. You know, I'm not going to stay in the nick or anything like that. But
I love the old grandfather at this point. You know, he's singing "A Nation" once again and stuff like that.
I mean, the character is from Dublin, isn't he? So
you'll never catch Jimmy McCartney or something like that, and he runs out the door. The police are after him. He tries to get into the venue. He gets kicked out. Pays them, I think, 6 shillings it was back then or something. Gets back in and warns them all. Ringo's at the police station. You better hurry up. He's absolutely convinced the police are going to beat the shit out of Ringo for some reason. They're offering them cups of tea and everything.
And George is at the Taylors as well. You know, he's this is one of the things, you know. I know we'll get into performances.
The Taylor is amazing. That scene's fantastic.
Some of the lines that George Harrison had to, you know, deliver in this sequence as well. Pardon the pun, sequence and Taylors, was some of the best stuff in the film, you know. And I thought, you know, I'm going to just skip to that bit just now before you even ask me, John, about the performances. George Harrison for me is probably the surprise one out of them all. You know, the youngest of the pack. He seemed to have the hardest of lines, maybe Lennon as well, I think. But just his delivery, he didn't seem over try. That was one of the problems I felt with Paul McCartney. He was just trying too hard. He just seemed to take it in his stride. And this scene was great. Just with the fashion guy.
He absolutely tore shreds off him.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
I think he thought he could shoehorn him in and get some question or answers out of him about what's trending.
Probably the first time you hear that word grotty as well.
Yeah, grotty. I think the guy hands him a shirt and says, "You'll wear that, you'll love it." He's like, "I will not, it's grotty." What does grotty mean? Grotesque.
Yeah.
I think he further slags one of the pin-up teenagers, the girl. He says, "We turn the sound down and make funny noises about her and whatnot. She's basically an airhead, we don't like her." And the guy says, "Get him out here. Get him out. I don't want him destroying what we have here." But yeah, Stephen, I liked the fact that he did have a lot of lines in this movie, George, because of course, at that point, he was seen as the quiet Beatle. Didn't speak a lot. It was usually George, Ringo and John. Not George, John, Paul and Ringo. I'm saying George, that did a lot of speaking. I'm getting my Beatles mixed up here. George traditionally wasn't really seen as a sort of talkative guy, but in this movie he does a hell of a lot of talking, as you did say. Some very
more than Bongo.
More than Bongo. Yes, with his massive grotesque scooter. Yes, I feel sorry for Ringo, I really do. I always recall that story from the anthology where he says, "Get rid of the Jew, we're going to kill the Jew." Trouble is, I'm not Jewish.
It was
bizarre,
wasn't it?
That was over in the United States. That's what they're like, absolutely crazy over there. But Stephen, if we're talking about performances, obviously Wilfred Bramble, he's the sort of veteran. He was really good in it. Yeah, I really enjoyed his performance, just as that sort of conniving mixer. He's seen as very clean.
Yeah.
I think it goes full circle at the end. He says, "But I'm very clean," and John says, "Are you?" So it's just sort of, obviously that running joke from that TV show and whatnot, but just what they're doing with him, generational stuff. We'll get into that in a moment though. I liked his performance. You're right, George was right up there. Probably next to Ringo and John for me as the standouts. I'm doing Paul a disservice. But of the Beatles, he was the worst performer. But he was okay. They were all fine.
They were all fine, John. You're right. I think just when you sort of, separate them from the rest of the cast, then you do the sort of comparison thing. But, out with that, Norman Rosington, I think his name was, who played Norm. And
he was good as well.
The fella that played Shake, John Junkin, I want to say.
John Junkin,
I think that's his name. A good support cast. Victor Spinetti in there as well, who would go on to appear and help as well with the Beatles. But I think Wilfred Bramble for me is obviously he's going to be the obvious standout in the film because he is the established actor. But surprise performances probably at this stage in their career for me was probably in the order of George Harrison, Ringo Starr, John Lennon, and then Paul McCartney. Absolutely,
Stephen. I forgot about the two roadies, the managers. They were good. They're bickering.
Yeah.
Sort of, "You're always taller than me, I'm sick of it." And he's like, "I've discovered what's wrong here. I'm not taller than you, you're just shorter than me." Their bickering back and forth was great. It was almost like Del Boy Trotter and Rodney at times, and obviously Dave, that guy, what was he called? The guy called
Trigger.
Just the bickering between them, it was sort of reminiscent of that for me. But Stephen, obviously we do get the live performance. The coppers chasing the Beatles, we can't overlook that. That's a great little sort of Benny Hill sequence where they're chasing them into the police station, out the police station, they come back to the police station. Lennon's out of breath. Can you wait a minute to get my breath back? And then they start running again. Lennon ends up behind them.
Yeah.
It's just a great sequence again. It's sort of harkening back to that stupid comedy from that time period where it was frenetic and almost like Morecambe and Wise type stuff, but it's just
very slapstick, as you said,
very
John.
slapstick. But very well handled, Stephen. I enjoyed that
definitely.
sequence. Before we actually get into the live performance and also the end of the movie, did you see the sort of generational digs that I seen in this movie with obviously the grandfather? I think it's actually Lennon says a line. I wrote the line down, but if I can find it, then John, I'll be doing well.
There is a few sort of lines in there that do that. Also that, and obviously, like we mentioned before, the class system. There's a few digs in there as well. Of the establishment and stuff like that.
It's satire.
Yeah,
don't push your luck, he says, Stephen. He's sex obsessed. The older generation are leading this country to ruin. So again, it's flipping this sort of perspective or perceptions of the Beatles at that point, this up and coming group of wrongings, them and the Stones and whatnot. They're going to ruin this country.
John, it's an age-old thing that happens with every generation. Where
it was the boomers with the millennials.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll have their day as well. Where they think the younger generation are just a bunch of hooligans as well. Yeah, it's just something that transcends.
It does. It just goes in cycles. It's cyclical, Stephen. But obviously, the live performance at the end, we get to the moment we've all been waiting for. This video coordinating guy has been waiting for. He's been praying for it to come. But Stephen, it's fantastic the way that again they just highlight Beatlemania in this sequence. The screaming of the children, the girls, some of the boys as well, to be fair, and older people. They're upset. They're absolutely crazed and obsessed with what they're seeing. Ringo, yeah. And just great music again, Stephen. I can't recall the actual ordering. I think we may get another.
Happy to Dance With You was one of them.
I think it was. Yeah, and there's a few other ones in there as well. I think we get She Loves You. Yeah, must have been a single round about that point. And again, it's just really well performed. Also, they're dubbing it. They're not actually singing live because you can see it. They're slightly out. I think Mac is singing back into a Lennon number, and it's not even remotely connecting with what you're hearing in the actual song. But it's just again really well brought together. It shows you what it would have been like at that point to be in that theatre with them. It's bedlam, but they're really enjoying it. I really enjoyed that element of the movie. It was a sort of crescendo to the musical element where we're getting the out-and-out performance, unabated, no silliness, just right in there giving us what these guys did best, and that is singing and making great music. Also, the old Granda comes up on the stage as well at this point, he tries to sort of upstage his grandson, and Mackie gives him a sly little kick off the stage, which I laughed at. Harrison doing his little leg act as well, playing the solo, I like that. Something he was famed for, doing the little leg and the step thing. Stephen, final thoughts on this movie though, unless you've got something to add about that live performance.
I think that this will probably blend into my final thoughts anyway, John. This part of the film is gold because, when they were doing the tour of the United Kingdom, even before Beatlemania kicked off, a lot of people weren't lucky enough to get to see them perform. So this is probably the next best thing for them, going to the theatres, the old-fashioned theatres, not what we experience in the cinemas. Yeah, like Renfield Street where the actual Beatles did play, which is shut down now. Criminal.
Turned into flats or offices. What the hell are you doing, man?
But it's just one of those, I would say it's an opportunity for that sort of generation to go and see the Beatles and kind of give them a hint of what they would have been like performing in like dance halls and theatres, etc., before they really hit the big time and went to Shea Stadium, Yeah,
Stephen, I would have loved to have been in a theatre watching this. Just listening to it on my earphones and on my iPad, that's where I watched it. But it was fantastic.
My final thoughts, it's a fantastic film. I don't think Help reached the same heights as this film, although it's technically a good film. It's just a poor story.
Yeah, it's great. It's Stephen, they were on Ash.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it was like segmented, but I'm sure if we're doing a review of that, we can get right into that.
That's a great movie as well, Stephen. I love the start with the sort of multi-terraced house.
There's something just very honest about this film, and I think because it was shot in sequence as well, it kind of showed the acting of the four sort of blossoming as the film progressed, if you know what I mean. On a technical point of view, you've got a very experienced cinematography in there to capture some great shots. Some iconic shots when you think about it now. The Beatles running down that street, Harrison falling over, Lennon gutting himself. They're running into the station as well. It's kind of from the side. You see them running in from left to right, or right to left. Sorry, and the side streets as well. I mean, you can pick them out in your head. They're such iconic shots now. Richard Lester, to take this on, he'd also go on to do a few more films with these guys as well. So it's a great film, John. It's one I like to get back to every now and again. Even if I've not heard the soundtrack or the actual album, it's just a good way to maybe listen to their music, as you watch them perform, in acting.
It really is, Stephen. It's a great melting pot of a movie with different genres, just a whole array of stuff going on, tangents, surrealism, great comedy, really good dialogue. It's really technically a brilliantly crafted movie from Lester and all the other people involved.
I would say so.
Just on a technical level, if you're a fan of the Beatles, you're just going to love it. It's just all their music, all their characteristics, tics, mannerisms, whatever you want to call it. Just great performances from these young guys at that point, acting way beyond their years. I mean, completely inexperienced novices at the game, and they deliver pretty damn good performances. I really enjoyed it. As I says, I've seen it twice. I enjoyed it the first time. If anything, I actually enjoyed it more watching it this second time. There was little bits I picked up on. Still, probably my favourite Beatles movie.
Yeah.
I rate it above Help. I've never seen Magical Mystery Tour, and I don't know if I've seen the bastardised version of Let It Be. I don't think I have.
No.
I've seen snippets from it. I know there was a documentary released in the 70s. Don't even want to watch that because it was skewed towards Macca and it just shat upon Lennon completely. And being I'm more of a Lennon guy, I don't want to see that. So I'm hoping Peter Jackson gave us a better version. Yeah. And this may topple A Hard Day's Night, but it's got a hard task ahead of it because this is a damn good movie. It's just everything about it. It's pretty much perfect to me. Just sums up that era of the Beatles beautifully, Stephen. But look, I'm done speaking about it. I'm sure you're done speaking about it. So that's going to round up the review of A Hard Day's Night from all the way back in 1964. What the hell do you guys make of it? Are you fans of the Beatles? Perhaps not fans of the Beatles? Have you seen this movie? If you have, you can comment below and let us know what your thoughts are on it. The music, technically, the performances from the Beatles. If you haven't seen it, I highly urge you to go and watch it because you are seriously missing out. It's a fantastic little movie. Don't be afraid of the age of it. No. It doesn't matter how long ago a movie was crafted. You wouldn't say that about The Godfather, so don't say it about this. If you get anything to say at all, you can comment below and let us know what your thoughts are down below in the comments section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. If you do, then you will see me tomorrow for MBE Movie News, and you will see us again on Thursday for another movie review.